In this video, I will cover the essentials of React Router, including how to set up your client-side routing in your React application with no more full page reload. Basically, you're going to learn how to use React Router. And this is just one step away from using Next.js, because that combines everything. React and React Routing combines it into Next.js, so you have client-side and server-side routing in there. But before you get there, I would suggest to learn React Router. It is a exceptionally good routing system. And what we're going to do, we're going to first of all go through a couple of slides. So we're just going to explain a couple of definitions, what are links, what is the router, how the routing system works, what are routes, what is an outlet, so far and so on. And after that, we're going to create a project. So we're going to install React Router. We're going to use React with Vite, and we're also going to use TailwindCSS for styling. And this is the project that we're going to create here, which is just basically a simple demo of the React Router and how it works. So we're going to have a home page where we can go either from here for the top navigation to the About page, or go back and go from here to the About page. And please take a look at how this changes. So we're not refreshing the page, only in the browser the route changes. So for example, if we go to products, we're going to then go in another product. So we're going to have products and then the product ID. I'm going to show you how you can handle that. And different products. We're also going to have a dashboard. Here is where we're going to use nested routes. So basically in the dashboard, we're going to have another route which is going to be profile, and another route which is going to be settings, both of them in the dashboard. Then we're going to have the context page. And this basically just serves for me to show you how the 404 page works, which is page not found. So I hope you're excited. Give a like, subscribe to the channel. Let's get started with the presentation. Okay, so first of all, let's get started with React Router, and let's just talk about what it is, how it works, and how it can help us. So first, you need to know that React Router is a client-side routing system in React. And it's just a standard library for routing in the React environment. Now, it enables single-page applications, which you may already heard about them if you're using React, which are spas. So navigating between pages without full page reload, as I just showed you in the presentation, in the project presentation. And of course, is fast and seamless because you're not rebuilding the page using JavaScript. Now, client-side routing will basically manipulate the browser's history, API, and update the UI. As you saw, we're just updating the user interface. We're not bringing in new data from the server. It is declarative because we're just defining routes using React components. And you're going to see how simple that is just in a couple of seconds when we're going to come to our project. Now, how to install it? It's pretty straightforward. You're going to open up a terminal, and first of all, you need to have React installed. Or we're not going to install React. We're actually going to install Vite, which is much faster, and with TailwindCSS, and then we're going to install the React Router DOM. We're going to use npm, or you could use yarn for it if you want. I'm going to use npm. So the basic setup is as following. The core component is the browser router, which will wrap around your entire application, and it uses HTML5 history APIs for URL synchronization. Now the routes, which is the container for each and every route, is a component, and it finds matching paths to the rendered element. Now, each and every route is basically a URL path to a React element, or also known as a component. So here's a simple example. We're going to import React browser router, routes and route from React Router DOM, and we're going to have a couple of routes which will live in our pages folder. For example, home page, the about page, and the contact page. And as you can see here in the presentation, we're going to wrap the entire application before we're exporting the app as a browser router, the main component, then the routes, and in the routes, you're going to have the route for each and every path. Now, each and every path will start with a // and the main / will be for the home page, and then nothing else. We're just going to assign it to home. And then we're going to have /about, /contact, and so forth and so on if you want to have multiple pages. Now, what kind of navigating tools can we use? First of all, the link, the plain old simple link, which is primary a navigation for a spa. Now, it renders a anchor tag, and it prevents a full page reload. So basically, if you want to use a link, is a component which is function from the React Router DOM. You're just going to import it and you're going to use it and tell it where it should go. Now we're going to point it to /about in order to link it to our about page. But this is not the component, as you can see here. It is just the path where it should go. So you can see here, / and no capital letter, it's only lowercase about. Now the NavLink, like a link, but applies active class style when path matches. And it's basically what we're going to use in navigation menus. In order to use it, we're going to import it from React Router DOM. We're going to point it to the path where it should go. And then we can add classes. And there's a building class or a building function. Basically, we're going to catch and look for if it is active. Now it is active. And these are just a couple of TailwindCSS style classes. Then the text will turn into a specific color. And if not, then we're going to use a different color. And we're going to use here ternary operator. Okay, so let's move ahead and talk about useNavigate hook. Now this is a programmatic navigation, and basically we'll be using this for form submissions. So for example, if you could create a navigation variable and then handle the navigation, for example, to the dashboard, when we will trigger this using a button, just going to send us to the dashboard. Route parameters for useParams hook. And this will pass dynamic data into our route using the path URL. Now I already saw this when I use products, and each and every product has an ID. As soon as that ID matches to a specific ID of a product, it's going to go to that specific product and open that product in that specific path. We can assign parameters using the useParams, importing it from React Router. This is just an example. How we're going to create a variable. We're going to destructure, or we're going to bring in useParams, destructure ID from it. And when that matches, that specific product will be displayed. Now let's talk about nested routes, as I showed you in our dashboard example. Now this rendered components based on a child route within a parent component. And is extremely useful when a section of the UI changes. As I showed you in our dashboard example, and you open up your dashboard, the index route, which is basically like the / in our home. But when we're indexing one of our routes, that will be always the main route, which will be displayed when we're accessing that route. And underneath of that, we can display then the profile or the settings or whatever route we specify within our nested routes. Now, the nested routes need to be displayed in something called the outlet. So remember, outlet is where nested routes will be rendered. This changed over the later versions of React Router. In earlier versions of React, we also had switches and so on and so on. But I like it much more how now the routing system works in React. Now, let's also talk about what happens when a route is not found. And this is where the route not found will come in and be extremely handy. So, good practice, you always use a 404 page when a route is not found. We're just going to create one of them. And that is basically always going to be called when the route is not found. We're just going to use that little star. You can see there as a path, and each time one of the routes is not found, this is going to throw this error and tell the user that the route does not exist or it was not found. And we're just going to build a simple component which will be returned each time the route will not be found. So this is kind of a little bit of structure of what we're going to create in the project. We're going to create a home page. We're going to create an about page, which is general info, product page, which is going to list a couple of products, then product detail page, which from the product page, we can go to each and every product itself. This is where the detail page will come in handy. The contact page, and before that, we're also going to create the 404 page. And of course, we are going to use the navigation bar using NavLink. So hope you're excited, and remember that the React Router is a really powerful library for managing navigations in a React application. Now, I will suggest that you understand the basic concept here. This is just a crash course, and for the members of the channel, the course is coming up in a couple of weeks, and also I'm going to release more and more projects using React Router. So hope you're excited, hope you liked the presentation. Just cut it here and let's move to practical stuff. Let's install React Router. Oh, and one last thing before we get started with the project, the entire slide and everything, the entire code base will be on the Substack. So just follow a link and you're good to go. It's down in the video description. All right, so I have here Visual Studio Code open, and I'm just going to create a folder on my desktop, and then I'm going to move it to projects. I'm just going to call this code, just drag and drop it in here. There's multiple ways you can do that. You already know how we can handle our project setup. So also let's open up now the terminal, use Control-T there or Command-tilde on a Mac. And let's just get started by installing Vite and Tailwind CSS. So we're going to go to TailwindCSS.com, and from here, we're just going to go to Get Started. Let me just zoom in just a bit. Okay, so let's go to Get Started. We want to install it as using Vite. So we're going to just npm create Vite at latest, my project. And we're going to call this one. So go ahead here, npm I for install, or just type in install. Create, not install, create. Just drag this to the side here. So create Vite at latest. I'm going to basically install the latest version of it. And we're going to call this React Router Crash and dash course. Okay, hit enter, and this is going to just set up a simple Vite application. So just hit here yes. And we're going to choose here, let me make the terminal a bit larger. We're going to choose here React as a framework. So hit enter. Then we're going to go down to regular JavaScript, hit enter, and we can see here that this was already created. Okay, so next step will be to change the folder. So cd into cd and just hit tab. This is the only folder that you have. Here, jump into create React Router Crash course. And from here, we're going to npm I, which will just install the node package manager for us. Now, depending on your machine, this is going to just take a couple of seconds. And after this is done, we're going to install now Tailwind CSS. So for this, we're going to type in npm I for install Tailwind CSS space at Tailwind CSS / You can see here, you also need to type in Vite. Hit enter, and it's going to install the necessary files for Tailwind CSS. Okay, so after we're done with installing our Tailwind CSS file, we're going to go now to the Vite config file. As you can see here, we just need to copy in this import Tailwind CSS, and then also in the plugin, we're going to add to React. So just here, comma and Tailwind CSS. Okay, now we're going to go to our CSS file, which is app CSS. Take everything, delete it, and just import your Tailwind CSS. Okay, so at import and within quotation marks Tailwind CSS. And we should be good to go. We're going to now run npm run dev, which is going to start the server. Now just hold down Control or Command and click on it, and this should open up your application. This is just going to look something like this, and we're going to delete everything that we see here. First, let's just do a little bit of maintenance. So we don't need the index.css, but after we delete this, we're going to have a little error because this is also being imported in our main file. So go into our main and delete this import. Okay, hit save. Okay, now we have no styling whatsoever. We're going to close up app CSS, main.js, Vite config. We're going to go into our app.jsx file. We're going to delete everything that is between the brackets. I'm also going to close my command line there. And let's just try to use Tailwind CSS. We're just going to create an h1 with the class, so dot class of, say, text and center, and dot text red and 500. And let's type in here title. Okay, hit save, enter, and you should see a little title appearing here. So let's increase it. After the text, we're going to type in here a text and 9 times XL, which should make it really, really large. Good. So we got everything that we need. We can also delete these imports. We don't need use state. We don't need the state here. Hit save. And there we go. We have a clean setup now. So now we can start to work on our structure, so which will look something like this. We're going to create a couple of components, and then we're going to have a couple of pages. And then the dashboard will have its own nesting and its own pages. We're going to have our main app and our index.js. We already modified this. We only have our app.css and no index.css. Zoom in here just a bit. Hopefully this is much easier. Now you're also going to have this in your download files, so don't worry about this. Just going to follow the link down below. Okay, Good. I'm going to close this, go back to our folder structure, and let's start working on how this should actually look. Now, in source, we're going to create a new folder, and we're going to call this components, which is basically going to have two components. First will be the button components. Let's create here a new file, button.jsx. I'm just going to use a shortcut of RFC, create a functional React functional component, and also automatically export this as default. Now, because we're using TailwindCSS, I'm going to style this button as a Tailwind component using TailwindCSS, of course. But I already have it, so I want to be able to focus more on React routing. So I'm just going to copy this in and go really quickly over the component. So a bunch of stuff here. The background will be blue. When we hover, it's going to have a different background. The text will be white. The font will be bold. We're going to have some padding on the y-axis, padding on the x-axis, rounded edges, shadow of LG, large shadow, going to have transitions. We're also going to be able to add here a couple of props. First of all, it would be the add classes as a prop. So multiple classes which will override. If, for example, we want to change this to red, and we're going to pass in the class up here, that is going to override the background from blue to red. We also want to send down a label. So whatever this means right here, what kind of button is this? And we also want to be able to have click events. So we're going to send here down a on-click event as a prop. So let's quickly use our button here on our application. Let's just try to bring it in. So button, and this was brought in for me automatically. And because we passed in label like this here as a child component, I would suggest that you use open and close button tags for the button component. So for this will be click, and there we go. We have a button. Actually didn't want to use here label, but children and children here. There we go. Okay, so we have click here. So that's basically it for the button component. And from here on, we're going to start working on our routes. Now I'm going to close out the button component, open up the Explorer tab here, and in our source, I'm going to create a new folder called this pages. And the first page we're going to create will be the home page.jsx. We're going to export here a React functional component, RFC. And now it's time to install React Router. So let's open up the terminal, Control tilde or Command tilde. And from here, we're just going to install using npm I react-router-dom. Hit enter. And now we can take a look at our package.json, and you should see on the dependencies, React Router DOM version 7.6.3. Okay, so we have it as a dependency. And now where do we use it? Well, as I said, in the main app. And I'm going to type in here a comment above the imports, routing. And here we're going to import, open close curly brackets, browser, router. And this is going to be brought in from, open close double quotation marks, react-router-dom. Okay. And now everything that we have here will be wrapped around this browser router. Okay, so just type in the browser router within those empty brackets. Now, if you hit save, you see nothing happens. So what I'm going to do next is go down here, or actually up here, create here a div with a min height of screen, a bg gray 100 dot font stance. Going to display this as flex and flex call. So this will be our main wrapper. And within here, we're going to have another main tag with the class of flex grow dot container dot margin on the x-axis of auto, padding 6 all around, and margin top 6. Also, let's change the background to white, and we're going to add a shadow XL, and then the border should be rounded LG. Okay, now this is where the routes will live. So in order to use a route, we need to bring in our routes, and you also need to bring it in up here from React Router. Close the Explorer so you can see this better. Now this will wrap around each and every route, as I said. So this should be a open and close component. Okay. Now within here, we're now going to bring in our very first route. So route. Also don't forget to bring it in up here. So route. We're going to use the route component now from the React Router. And this should be capital R. And in this case, a route is a self-closing component. Now a route needs a path. And the path will, first of all, go to /, and the element, which then the path will display, will be between two curly brackets, and it's going to be that home page that we created. So let's bring in the component of home page, close it up here, and you also need to import home page from page.pages.home or /home because it lives here. Now, if I hit save, nothing happens because I forgot to restart the server. So npm run dev once more because I stopped the server and now I need to restart it after I installed React Router. So there we go. Instead of having title now, we're going to have a home page. And everything that is in here will no longer be relevant. We will not see it. Appear only if we scroll down here. Okay, so that's our home page. Now let me delete this part. So button and h1, and we got ourselves our home page. Okay, so one page is done. Now let's create another one. We're not going to populate the home page just now. So let's create another one, and this will be the about page. So new file, about page.jsx in pages, rfc, and about page. Simple as that. Now again, let's use the about page in our routing system. And what's more, we're going to create a route. This will then point to the path of / and about, and it's going to have as an element, when we reach that path, as the home page. And don't forget to bring it in, then close out the component. Also, don't forget to bring it in up here. So we're going to import about from pages about. Now, what I suggest you should do, so don't get that cluttered, is create here a comment of pages. Okay, and down here we're going to bring in about. Hit save. Now we cannot see the about page. So how do we get there? Well, let's just try for now going up in our browser and typing in here / and about. Hit enter, and now we can see the about page. So let me demonstrate this, that we have here changing pages by creating down here footer. So right after, now remember you need to remain in between these browser components. Right after the main tag, I'm just going to copy in here a footer. So footer tag with a couple of classes, dark background gray, 800, text white, padding 4 on each and every axis, margin to the top 8, a container then, which is just going to generate here a today's date. And a little bit of text here, router demo, and all the rights reserved. Now, we are on the about page. So how do we get back to our home page? Well, remember that the home page has just the / before. So if I would delete here the about and just hit enter, have all my /, then I'm going to come to the home page. If I want to go to about page, / about. Okay. Now this is not the way we're going to navigate, of course. Let me zoom in here a bit. You can see what I'm doing. We're going to navigate using a navigation. Now let me finish first of all the home page components. So let's go to the home page. And what I'm going to do here is obviously copying the home page. You're not learning how to type now React code. So here's the home page. And remember, you have the entire code down in the video description. Now it's just a div with a text center. Go back to home. You can see our home page. And we also need to bring in import our button component now, because we're using the button component down here. And I'm just going to comment this out for now. So here's our home page. Welcome to the React crash course. This application demonstrates how to use React DOM, so far and so on. H2, paragraph tag. And what I want to show you now is how to use the useNavigate hook from React Router DOM. So what we're going to do here is import or useNavigate, and this is going to come from the React Router DOM. So what this does is it helps you navigate from wherever you are in your application to a certain page. And for this, we're going to create a variable const. We're going to call this navigate. We're going to assign it to the useNavigate hook. Remember, open and close parentheses. And this hook is used for programmatic navigation. Now, in order to use this hook, we need to create a function, and we're just going to create a const here. Call it go to about, because this is what we want it to do. We're going to assign it to an arrow function, and we're going to use our navigate and pass in here within curly brackets the path where we want it to be sent. So navigate to / and about, for example. Now, if you want to use this, because this is a function, we're going to use it down here in our button. So our button, which does not have any kind of other classes, and let's use here our button, and we're just going to type here, learn more about us. Okay. Now, if I click on this button, remember that it's going to call the onClick function. This is just a prop. We're going to pass in here, go to about. This is going to trigger this navigate, which is going to use the useNavigate hook and is going to send us to this path. So let's click on it and it should send us to the about page. Perfect, isn't it? Now, this is just one part or one way to navigate. We can create a incomplete navigation system here. And this is what we're going to do next. We're going to create a navigation bar, which will use a couple of hooks from React Router DOM. So the home page is pretty much done. I'm going to close it up. And let's also populate the about page, and just going to paste this in. Again, it's a H2 with a little text, then 2 paragraph tags, and you have the entire code down in the description. So please just copy and paste it in. Now I'm going to also close the about page. And now we're going to work on our navigation. For this, we're going to open up our Explorer, go to Components, create here a new file. We're going to call it navigation.jsx. We're going to create here const, call it navigation, assign it to an arrow function. And this is basically going to, within open and close curly brackets, return here, open and close parentheses, a nav tag. So just call this navigation for now. Also, let's export it here, export at the bottom as default and navigation, because this is a functional component. Now, where will we use our navigation? Well, back to our app, we're going to bring in, right here as we have our button. We don't need the button actually, but we're going to, let's type in here components. We're only going to have one components, but let's just get used to working organized here. So import navigation from components navigation. Now, where will I use my navigation? Well, above here, above our routing system. So above the main, where each and every route will be displayed, I'm going to go up here and just use the component navigation and close it up. Okay, so we have here nice navigation component. It doesn't do anything right now. So let's go ahead, go back to the navigation. I'm going to close the Explorer and let's see how the navigation works. So remember that I told you that we need a couple of tools in order to use the navigation, and we're not going to use link, but we are going to use the upgraded version of the link, which is going to be the NavLink. Let's import NavLink from React Router DOM. First, I'm going to copy in a bit of style for the navigation bar, which is just going to form a gradient here from purple to blue. Then we're going to create here a div, and this is going to have a couple of classes like container, max, the margin on the x-axis, auto, flex, flex wrap, and justify between an item center. Then within the div, we're going to create an H1, the React Router Demo as a title. And we're going to add a couple of classes to that H1, just like that. So we can now delete this navigation text down here, just getting in the way. Now for the navigation part itself. After our H1, we're going to create a unordered list. We're going to add to this a flex dash wrap, a space on the x-axis of 6, and a text dash LG. Okay, now within here, I'm going to create a LI. Actually, we don't even need the LI. Just going to create a nav. So use now the nav link, and this is a open and close component. So it has an opening tag and it has a closing tag. Now the first route that we want to go to is the / or the home page. So we're going to go to, actually this should be up here. So let's just type in the title here of home. So there's the very first one, home. And now this component has a prop called to, and we're going to send it to, open and close, double quotation marks, /. So if we click on this little fellow right here, it should send us home. And that is what it does. Now remember that from here, we're going to go to learn more about us, and we can go back to home. Now let's also style this link a bit. So we're going to use here classes. And remember that I told you about our active tag. Now for this to be demonstrated, I'm just going to type in here, first of all, nothing. Type in here, double quotation marks, and that's it. And let's just copy this link, paste it in here, and this would be about. Now obviously, this should go to about. So as soon as I do this, I can go home and I can go about, and this already works, as you can see. Now, where do I know where I am? Well, obviously I can look up here, but I want to also signal to the user that you are on a certain page, and this is where the active tag comes in. So let's go back to classes and I'm going to delete this. And up here, first of all, I'm going to use fallback function. Okay. And within this function, I'm going to pass in the isActive argument. And now if isActive is true, then we're going to have class of yellow, text yellow, so far and so on. And if it's not, then we're going to have a text white. I'm just going to copy them in. So if active is true, then the text will be yellow and underlined. And if it's not, then it's going to be white. So click on home, it's going to be yellow and underlined. And if it's not, then it's not. So we're going to also copy this to the next one. So you can just take the entire class like this, copy it, go down here and replace it down here. Okay, so now we are on the about page and so far and so on. Okay, so let's populate the entire thing. We're going to create another one. I'm not going to copy and paste, so please type around with me so you can get used to it. The next one, where should it send us? Well, it's going to send us to the products page. So it should be /products. Again, we're going to have the same classes, and we're going to close this one up with a navigation, not a navigation link, and we're going to type in here the products text. Products. Okay. I'm a little bit zoomed in here, so this is why looks so crappy, but it should look like this. Okay, next up we have the dashboard. So let's use another link tags, open, close, nav, link, open and close it up there. It's going to be contact, dashboard, sorry about that, dashboard. And I'm going to put in here between parentheses, nested. So this is where we're going to use our nested routes. And last but not least, we're also going to have a context page. Copy once more the class in here. And this is also going to go to /dashboard. And last but not least, I'm going to now copy this and have our context page. So contact and down here, contact. Okay, simple as that. So our navigation is done. I can go to the about page. I can go to the home page. I can not go to the products page. So it's empty. So what are we going to tell now the user? That it's empty or the page is not found. So let's create our page not found. That's what to do. Next up, we're going to create here in our pages, new page. I'm going to call it not found page.jsx. Let's create the RFC. Now, just as we did with our about page, we used here the useNavigate hook. So I'm going to bring in here two things. First of all, import the button component and then import our useNavigate hook from React Router down. Right up here before the return, we're going to create the const navigate and we're going to assign it to the hook, useNavigate. And I'm just going to populate now the page down here because it's nothing fancy. It's just a bit of text. Now, what is important is the button down here. And I'm going to pass this in here as children, not as a label. I like it more this way. Now, if I click on products, nothing happens. So we need to use this somewhere. Now, remember that this button will just send us back to the home page. So now let's go to our app. And up here in pages, we're going to import our page not found. We're going to go down to the routes. And it really almost doesn't matter where you put it. But we're going to create here a new route. So route. Now, this time the path for this route will be just a star. And the element that will be displayed when we're going to reach that star, or reach that path, will be the component of page not found. So not found page. And once again, close out the route. So now if I go to about and go to products, it's going to say, oops, there is no page here. So I want to go back home. Oh yes, I'm going to go back home. And this is where I'm using now my navigate hook from here. Okay. Now I could tell it to go to about. So instead of going here to home, it's going to go to about. But it is best practice to just send people back home. Now, if I go to dashboard, the same thing. If I go to contact, the same thing. You can see up here how the URL is changing without refreshing the page. Now, next up, what I'm going to do is just populate our contact page. I could close up this, close also up the navigation. We're done with the navigation. Go ahead and create a new file. Call it contact.jsx. Bring in the page here. Now, in order to go to the contact page, so we have the contact page here. Obviously, we need to go back to our app and create another route. So let's create here, open route, also close it up, so don't forget it. It's going to go to the path of /contact. It's going to have the element that will be displayed, the contact page, which I did not name contact page. So let me copy this and change this name. And also this is what we're exporting here. Now let's go up to pages, bring it in. So import contact and page. And now it should be good to go. So home, contact, oops, not found, contact. Oh yeah, so in the navigation, I tapped in concat, so contact. This is why now this needs to match to the path, okay? So now just hit save, and if I click on contact, it should open up the contact page. Perfect. Now let's work on products and dashboard. We're going to do dashboard first. Yeah, let's do dashboard first. It's pretty simple. So we're going to talk about nested routes next up, or actually demonstrate how nested routes work. So close up contact, close up everything. We are now going to go ahead and create a couple of nested routes. Now, when you're creating nested routes, it's best practice to also create a separate folder structure for them. So first things first, what we're going to do is go to pages, create a new folder. We're going to call this dashboard with a capital D. Within here, we're going to create our first one, which is going to be dashboard and home.jsx, RFC, and I'm just going to copy and paste in here how they should look. Now let's go to the navigation. After contact, we're going to bring, now these do not need to be in the same order as your navigation. Best practice to have them, but I'm just going to bring them in as I want. So if you want contact, I'm going to bring it in before contact. Let's go to a route. And this time, I'm not going to create a closing tag, but an open and close tag for the route. Each time you're using nested routes, the main route that you create has to be an open and closing tag, because whatever you type in between these two tags will be the children of this route. Now the path, very first pass will be /dashboard. Remember that our dashboard now points to the navigation, or the navigation points here to this dashboard. Okay, so let's close this. So in our app, we can close up the navigation, don't need it anymore. So dashboard will point to that element, and now we can also give it the element is equal to the component of dashboard, home that is. Now let's bring it in. Oh, actually, wait, this is true, but this is not the first path that we're going to point to. Now in our routes, and let me make this just a bit larger. So let me create another route. So within here, let me create a route, and this is going to be a self-closing tag. Now this will point to the very first route, and that is the home route. Now the home route in a as a nested route is a index route. Okay, so we don't have to point it as a path to something. You don't need to use the path here, because if you type in index, then it knows that that is the main route. You just have to tell it which element is that route, and the element, because I almost made a mistake here, is actually the dashboard home. Now, what element should we use for the route that wraps around everything? It's actually a dashboard layout route. So let's type in here layout, and we need to create this. So I'm just going to copy the name, go into dashboard, new file, paste this in .jsx, because this layout would wrap around everything and also have the exiting path for each and every nested route. Now, what do I mean by that? Will be clear just in a couple of seconds. So let's just create here our component, RFC. We're going to bring in up here, import the NavLink. Now we need, again, navigation links. You saw that in our main nav, right here to where our dashboard lives, there are no other slashes or backslashes after this dashboard. But we know that we have multiple routes. So where do they live? Well, they will live here in the dashboard layout. This is a navigation inside of a navigation. Now, when the navigation link is hit, it needs to display within here the path that we pointed to. And for that, we need an outlet. Okay? Now I'm going to copy in here a couple of things, and then I'm going to explain each and every step, because there's a lot of styling that is happening here. So we have a main div, flex, so on and so on, aside, so on and so on. Also hit save here. And let me just go back, because dashboard layout, let me see, this wasn't brought in. So import dashboard layout, and also we want to import dashboard home. Why isn't this exporting? Dashboard home from dot / pages / dashboard / and dashboard home. Okay, so for some reason it was not recognized. So let's just go over this. We have in our pages another folder which is called dashboard, and this dashboard has multiple files in it. So this is where we pointed to. Go to dashboard, the first path, the main wraparound route, go to dashboard. Now in dashboard, you're going to find the dashboard home as a index file. So this is the dashboard home. Where you have it here. Welcome to your dashboard. You see here, welcome to your dashboard. Overview. Now dashboard content is actually the layout. As you can see here, the dashboard navigation. Make this a bit larger. So we have here our aside, and I'm terribly sorry if I'm not typing each and every stuff out, but this is a crash course and I want to keep it short. And I do want to explain to the best of my possibilities everything. So this is just an aside, which is basically pushed to the side, and this is where navigations live. Here are multiple navigation tabs, which each time I'm going to click on one of these, then they are going to display another link, another component, but to the right side. So they're not going to replace the entire page, but they're going to display to the right side. Why? Now let me show you this. Do you see this aside? If I close this up, it has all the navigation links in it, but what it does not have is this outlet. Now this outlet is actually this what you see here, you don't see. It's just where the pages will be displayed. So let me just create the next two pages, which is dashboard profile, for example. Yeah, profile is the next one. So let's go to navigation. So new file, dashboard profile. Let's do here RFC. Oh, I didn't name it as .jsx. RFC. There we go. Let's copy in the return. And let's create the last one, which is dashboard and settings. .jsx. RFC. Oops, not that one. And there we go. Now we're going to close up dashboard settings, dashboard profile, dashboard home. And what we need is a dashboard layout. Now remember this outlet. This is where the links are displayed. So the links are exactly as we did it before. We're creating a link. We're pointing it to the dashboard. This is where our very first dashboard home lives. You have it as active because this is the very first one. And then we have a dashboard / profile. Now the profile is actually, if I click now on it, is the next element that we displayed. So that dashboard profile. Now let's go to the app, and right here where the routes are, remember within these two, we're going to create now another route, close it up, and this is going to be pointed to, so path / profile. And the element that should be displayed, element, will be the dashboard and profile. And because it's not brought in automatically, let's bring it in here. So dashboard home, then import dashboard profile. There we go. From .pages / dashboard folder and / dashboard profile. What are we missing here? Dashboard. Oh, this should be from. Okay. Dot is what? Oh, dash. Missing an H here. That's why it's not finding this. So dash H here and a H also here. Okay. And oops, wait just a second. I messed up here. So this is without a /. Okay, and now it's working because if you take a look in our dashboard layout, it already has the / here. Okay. So dashboard, if I click on profile, now profile is visible. Settings, not working yet. Now we need to bring in settings. So in our app, settings, but we need the route. So let's copy this route, paste it in here, and replace this with settings, and this one with settings. And again, I have an error because let's inspect this. Console, absolute route path. Yes, we're missing here the dashboard settings. So let's import dashboard, not the layout, but the settings. I'm just going to replace this with settings. And we are good to go once more. Okay, so profile and settings. Okay, so that's it for nested routes. Just a short recap. We have a route, opening and closing tag that wraps around multiple routes. It has one path as a dashboard. Then it has an index route, the dashboard home. The element is the layout, so the look of it. Then each and every element will be displayed in the outlet. You need to bring it in here. And each and every navigation link will then point to the dashboard / and the path of that specific element that we're pointing to. Okay, so profile and settings. Now, hope you understood nested elements. Now, let's move away from this and let's go to the products page where we're going to use our useParams. So let's create the products. We're going to go into pages, new file. First of all, we're going to create the product. The products is multiple product page.jsx. Just create a React functional component. Now, again, we're going to use the navigation link here. So we're going to import it. Import, open and close parentheses, NavLink from React Router DOM. Let's hit save. And before we forget it, let's also import it up here in pages. So import product page. Let's assign it a path. Let's keep the order. So we had it before dashboard route. Close up the route here. The path will be /products. And then the element will be the products page. Okay, so this should already work. Products, and there we go, products page. Now, another element that we need is the product detail. So I'm already going to create this just to work on them in parallel. So because we do need both of them at the same time. So let's go here, new file, call this the product and details, or just detail page.jsx, RFC, and there we go. Now, how do we get, because we don't have any kind of navigation here, how do we get to this product detail page? Now let's go back to our product page. As I said, the navigation link will send us to a specific product. Now, each and every product, which usually is in a database, but has a unique ID. So what I'm going to do here is create our own little database, nested database. Let's create here const. Let's call this products. I'm going to create here an array of objects that will represent the products. So the first one, open close curly brackets, ID, going to be the ID of eval pair 001, and then it's also going to have a name, which will be a, let's say, laptop pro, and it's also going to have a price. Price will be, let's say, $1,200. Now that's not all. We need to have multiple products, so the rest of them are pretty much repetitive. I'm going to just copy and paste them in. There we go. There are all of our products. Each and every them has a unique ID, unique name, and some sort of price. But what is important is actually the ID. Now, in order to use the ID, you have to have our NavLink here. And first, we need somewhere where we're displaying those products. Now, what I'm going to do is copy and paste here the return, and I'm going to go through each and every one of them. Now, title is obvious. Then we have a grid system where we're going to display the products. Now for the products, within curly brackets, we're going to take the product, use a high or array method of map on it, and each and every product then will be displayed with a unique key. For the key, we're going to use the product.id. Then we have a little bit of styling. Then we have the product.name and the product.price. Now here's where it's going to get interesting. We're going to use a NavLink in order to point to the products, and then we're going to have a / and then a product.id. And this will open up a separate page for each and every product. Now, if I do this right now, it's going to give me an error. We're going to go back to products. I go to product detail page, and this is where the magic happens. Here, we're going to import useParams and also useNavigate. And we also need a button, import button. So first things first, const. And we're going to destructure here a product ID. We're going to cite this to our useParams hook. Now, in a real app, once more, you would fetch the product database on the product ID from the server. In our case, I'm going to create once more here a little database, nested database. So here we go. The product data, which is for the ID of 101, name laptop pro, the description, and the price. Okay, now this is different. So if I change this to a different price, say 200, this is different from this little file right here. Here we are still in the product's main page, but here we want to display then the product's ID. Now, in order to display the product ID, we're going to create a const of product, and the product data. So this little database right here will be then assigned a product ID, which comes from our useParams. Okay. So each time we're going to search for a product from the database of product data, only that with the matching product ID will return. So let's do here const because we also want to go back to the main page, and we're going to call this navigate and use navigate. Okay. Now, before we return something, let's just do a little bit of logic. Now, if the product, this is very important to do, product does not exist, then it's going to return a little error and it's going to tell us to go back to our main page. Okay, so this is what this does. It's going to go navigate back -1. That is what it's telling us here. Now, everything else is pretty simple. We're just going to return here that specific product with the product name, the product price, the product description, and the product ID, and also a go back button. So, view details. Oops, I forgot one less detail. That this product detail page now needs to be as a path in our app. So we have our, where do we have it? Products. Okay. And now we need our route with the path of /products /column and product ID. Now, as an element, we're going to now use the product details page and close it up here. Okay, so let me make this just a bit clearer. Now, when we navigate to view details, the product will appear. I messed up the button here, so just 1 second, not labeled, but cut it out, delete this, and here we're going to have this and a closing tag. Okay, so go back to product. Now, this is going to send us back to the products page. Okay. Now, remember when I told you that if I change the price here and the price here, it changes from the database. That's what I did. And this is why this price differs from, for example, wireless is 150. If I click on it, it's still 150. These are two different databases. So once more, to recap, we created here using useParams and useNavigations. Well, the useNavigation is basically only to navigate us back. But the useParams is really important because we're destructuring from the useParams hook a product ID. So whatever product ID will be passed, where do you have it? Passed when I'm searching for it through the navigation, you can see here, that is what is going to be returned. And we don't have an outlet or something like that. We just have a different route because this route will display then a product ID. So in the products, just take a look up here. I click on view details. You're going to add the product ID. Okay, so it's displaying me the product detail page, which is actually assigned to a specific ID of that product. Okay, so let's take a final look at our wonderful application here because we're done. So we have our homepage from where we can go to learn more about us, go back. As a home assignment, implement here a go back home. Okay, and as another home assignment, implement for the dashboard a go back home button. Now, our products, depending on the ID that we click on, will land us to a different page, a different route. And our dashboard will have its nested routes. So it's going to just add here a separate route, but the main page will not change. Okay, so hope you enjoyed this project and I hope you learned a lot. And if you have any kind of questions or suggestions, leave them down in the comment section below. I'm NovBM, I teach web development. Check out my courses, become a member of the YouTube channel to have access to all of my courses and special products. With this being said, happy coding, take care, bye-bye.